Hey guys, it is time to move on to review area of triangles and trapezoids. So we're in our journal, we're in student handout 5. You just finished reviewing rectangles and parallelograms, which were pretty easy. So here are the two images that we're talking about today. Again, you learned this in 6th grade, so this should not be new material, okay? This first shape here is a rectangle. Remember that rectangles have 90-degree angles. All the angles are 90 degrees, and then opposite sides are congruent, okay? This is a right triangle because it has a right angle, okay? This is going to be the base, and this is going to be the height, okay? Sometimes you have triangles that are not right triangles, and your height is still going to be on the bottom, and then, oops, sorry, not your height, your base is going to be on the bottom, then your height is going to be inside, okay? You just have to remember your base and height make a right angle. Our base and height make a 90-degree angle, okay? This is called perpendicular. You'll see that word later, like when you get in geometry, but perpendicular just means it makes a 90-degree angle, okay? So a rectangle can always be cut in half to produce two equal triangles. That's where the 1/2 comes from, is because you cut it in half, okay? So is the formula for finding a rectangle, how would you describe the formula for a triangle? It's easy, it's half, okay? Maybe you've seen it as BH over 2, or maybe you've seen it as 1/2 BH. They are the same thing, okay? Remember, dividing by 2 is the same as taking 1/2, okay? On your formula chart, which if we are taking STAR test, you would have a formula chart. You don't have to have this memorized. On the formula chart, it uses 1/2 BH. Okay. All right. So let's look at these triangles real quick. It says label the base and height. So the base is going to be down here. My height is going to be up. Okay. Big B, the base. Okay. And they really shouldn't use big B because big B is going to be something different. So let's make this a small b. Okay. So the small b is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units long. Okay. The height is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units tall. And our formula, they didn't give us enough room here, 1/2 BH. So 1/2 times 5 times 7. Okay. It's not easy to take half of 5 or half of 7, so we'll just multiply. 5 times 7 is 35, and then half of 35 is 17.5. Now, because this is area, it's units squared. Okay, you always want to put units squared, feet squared, miles squared, meter squared, whatever, it has to be squared. Okay. All right. Now, most of the time, they're not going to give you a picture in a grid box. It's going to be like this. Okay. Now, this is not a right triangle because it doesn't have a right angle. Okay, so we have to remember our height. When you go to the doctor or to Nurse Johnson to get measured, she always says, stand up real tall. Okay, remember your height is standing up real tall. Okay, your height cannot be slanted. Okay, then that means 14 is our base. Okay, so now let's plug in these numbers. Our formula, 1/2 BH. Don't forget the 1/2. Okay, don't forget it. 1/2. The base is 14. The height is 16. Okay, now we're just going to multiply. The easy thing to do is see if you can take 1/2 first. Okay, half of 14 is 7. Okay, so then I have 7 times 16, and that's 24112, 112 inches squared. Okay, now you would get the same answer if you went ahead and just multiplied 14 times 16 and then divided by 2. You'll get the same thing. 14 times 16 divided by 2. You get the same answer. Or if you wanted to take half of 16 first and do 8 times 14. Oops, 8 times 14. You're going to get the same answer, okay? I just like to take half of whichever number I can first, just because I'm lazy and I want to do less work, okay? Our next triangle, we have our height is 2, and they're nice to us because they don't give us any extra numbers. Usually they try to give you extra numbers to confuse you. So formula first, 1/2 BH, 1/2. This is my base, 3.5. My height is 2, okay? I'm not going to take half of 3.5, but I can take half of 2. Half of 2 is 1. So then 1 times 3.5 is 3.5 meters squared. Okay. Again, if you want to just divide by 2 at the end, totally fine. But if you notice, by doing this, I really didn't have to do any math, which is awesome. Okay, on the next page, it wants us to decompose, which in science you talk about decomposing, and that means to break down. You're going to decompose the trapezoid into a familiar shape. Now, if you don't really remember what a trapezoid is, think of a triangle who got trapped and he lost his head. Okay, so like if I was to extend this guy used to be a triangle, but he's not anymore. He's a trapezoid. Okay, so a trapezoid could be broken into these shapes: a triangle, a square, and a triangle. We'll put rectangle because I'm not positive it's a square, and a triangle. Okay, same thing here. If I drew a line here, this guy is a rectangle, this guy's a triangle. Okay, over here, same thing, triangle, rectangle, triangle. Okay, so if you have trouble with trapezoids, you can always break it into pieces, but it's going to be more difficult. Okay, we have a trapezoid formula, so let's just use the trapezoid formula. Okay, it says find the area of the trapezoids. We have to know our formula. Okay, again, you will not have to have this formula memorized. This formula will be on your star chart if you take it. And if you don't, then you'll probably be using Google, okay? But let's write the formula down here first. A equals 1/2 parentheses B1 plus B2 close parentheses H, okay? B1 and B2 are going to be our bases. Which means they are parallel. I don't want you to think that they always touch, okay, your bases. Your bases are not always the top and bottom. Your bases are going to be the ones that are parallel, which means they never touch. I think I spelled parallel wrong. P-A-R-A-L-E-L-L. Yeah. Okay. So if my trapezoid looked like this, those are my bases. Okay. Maybe my trapezoid looks like this. These are my bases because these are the ones that are parallel. Okay. These guys will never, ever, ever touch. So it's not always top and bottom. It's the ones that are parallel, the ones that never, ever, ever touch. Okay, those are your bases. Okay, you add your bases, and then remember your height is going to make a right angle. Make sure that you remember your height makes a right angle. Right just means 90 degrees. Okay, so your height always has to make the right angle. Okay. All right, so let's do some practice. So first thing you want to do is write your formula. A equals 1/2 parentheses B1 plus B2 H. Do I have to write my formula every time? Yes. Okay. If you were here, I would be grading each little step. Okay. So let's pretend like we're here so that when you do return, We already know what we're doing, okay? And I'm not doing this to be ugly, but you are going to have to work backwards with some shapes, so I need you to be in the habit of understanding each part and where it goes, okay? So, first thing we want to do is figure out the bases, okay? That's base 1, that's base 2, okay? My height is going to be the tallest part where there's a right angle. See that right angle? That's my height. Okay, so let's plug it in. 1/2 parentheses 8 plus 16 times 6. Okay. Now remember, when you're adding, you can switch them. The order doesn't really matter. Okay. So first have to do parentheses. 18 plus 6 is 24. And then I can say, that's done, half of 6 is 3. And then 3 times 24 is 12, 72 centimeters squared. 72 centimeters squared. Okay. If you don't like doing that, you can just go ahead and add. Okay. 8 plus 16. You have to do parentheses first. Then you can say times 6. Then you can divide by 2 at the end. You're still going to get the same answer. Okay. My goal is to do it shorter, quicker, so that I don't even have to use my calculator because it's numbers that I know. Okay. All right, next shape. Again, a lot of people get confused. They're like, well, this is a rectangle and a triangle. That's fine if you want to do it that way, but it's also a trapezoid, so you can just do it as a trapezoid formula, okay? If you're doing it as a rectangle, you would have to figure out this little missing piece right here. Okay, that's why let's just do it as a trapezoid, okay? So formula, A equals 1/2 B1 plus B2H. Okay, 1/2 parentheses. My bases are parallel, so 10 and 13. My height is where this right angle is, which is 8. Okay, so now I'm just going to solve it. I have to do the parentheses first. 10 plus 13 is 23. Half of 8 is 4. And then 4 times 3 is 12. 2, let's just do this. 92 inches squared. 92 inches squared. Okay? If you had done the two parts, after you do that, you would just add them together. Okay? But again, you don't have to do that because it's a formula that you know. And if you're like, how do I know that's a trapezoid? Just imagine if this guy was to extend. This used to be a right triangle, but he got trapped, hence the name trapezoid. He got trapped and he lost his head. Okay? Let's do one more together. All right. My formula. 1/2 parentheses B1 plus B2H. Super important to label each part. Now they're going to try to trick us and throw in an extra number. 1/2 parentheses. Okay, I have to figure out my bases. Remember, down here I said my bases are parallel. So these guys are the ones that are never, ever, ever going to touch. So 7 and 12. Now remember, I said your height has to make a right angle. So if I look, the 4 makes a right angle. This 5, that's not a right angle, and that's not a right angle. So that's extra information. So 4 is my height. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 4. All right, 7 plus 12 is 19. I have to do my parentheses first. Half of 4 is 2. 19 times 2 is 38 inches squared. Okay, it's a big formula. It's not hard. Okay, plug in one number at a time. Remember your Aunt Sally, parentheses first, then multiply. Okay, now you're going to do some practice. Hopefully it goes well. If not, please come back for some help.